Photography versus painting.
No, that's easy for me. I can't pay for shit. So, photography is that's easy. That's not even a question.
Sebastian,
Wow.
I feel like this question is really for you. I feel like
This is how I feel right now. This is what you did to me right now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Just Shoot and Learn podcast. I'm your host Johnny, along with Sebastian and Lewis. So it's been about a week since we last met up. What's up, everyone?
just hanging, man. How are you doing?
I'm
Hanging in
doing
there.
right. How's everybody?
Well, news on that. I met up with Christoph just yesterday, Sunday.
Well, who's Christoph? Tell the audience who's Christoph.
Christoph is also another one of our friends from the LaGuardia Community College photography program. We met a while back. I believe I also met him back in 2012. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
When did you guys meet him?
yeah, we had I think
2011, I believe. I just sent you guys a picture, I believe, of Christoph in class. I took that picture in the
Okay.
center, and
Yeah, I
we
did
were
see
taking
that photo, but
photojournalism.
yeah.
Photojournalism.
So you were in photojournalism with me then. I
Yeah,
was in photojournalism
yeah,
with
yeah.
Christoph.
So I was in photojournalism. Wait, no. I was with Christoph with history of photography with the Professor Gordon, I think it
Right,
was.
Jamie
Yeah,
Lau Gordon.
Jamie
Well,
Gordon.
yeah, the photo you sent us is you and Christoph in that class where me and
Yes.
Johnny took that class together.
Somebody
Yeah.
very, very special in that back of the picture too. So we'll talk about that later.
Who was that? Who was that? Who was that?
Well, I happened, there's a story behind that picture, and there's a story behind also the photography, and that we never talked about the previous episode. And it was in that picture, my ex-girlfriend is there. I took the class, the
Okay,
history of photography class, because of that.
that's
And
funny.
I'm just thinking a bunch of so we took a picture, a class together, and Christoph was there. So that's when we met with Christoph.
That being said, that photo that you sent or you took of everybody, was that film or digital?
That was a film. That was film.
Remember what film stock you're using? Was it color negatives, I'm guessing, or?
It was a color at the time. You know what? It was at the beginning of the time of, I think it was 2010 when I took that class, or 2011, something like that. It was like I was just transitioning from the fine art, so I don't remember exactly which role. I know it was definitely like a Kodak, some sort of.
Yeah, probably
Be able
Kodak
to know
Gold
more.
200,
There
400.
comes Johnny. I just pick okay, color roll. No. I mean, I know about the other ones, but if we talk about black and white, I'll be able to tell you more because.
But yeah, that being said, did you have a digital camera at the time or no? Or you only had the film camera for?
No, I didn't have a digital camera at the time. I only had the film camera that I had picked up for the class.
Nice. You remember which camera that was by chance or not really?
It was a Minolta. No, it was it a Konica? Or no idea. Fuji, probably.
Cool.
It had to be like one of those.
More obscure brands, I guess.
No, the ones that you were able to get,
Oh, the random
used ones, at the time.
I feel like Sebastian, you had
$50, $100,
I feel like you had one of those Nikon tanks at the time.
Oh no, I mean right after that, right
like
after
a Nikon
I was
F, Nikon F.
F5.
Oh wow.
No, I mean like
F.
like an SLR, like
Like
The manual one, right?
the manual, yeah.
But,
I think you had like a
when
Nikon
I was
F.
taking class, I had a manual. I had that, but I remember that when I had just taken, or maybe no, maybe you're right. Listen, with me, we're going to be talking about this if it happened. I don't know when it happened, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, on that topic about the whole film and digital thing, do you guys remember when you got your first digital camera and what that was?
Yeah. You want to go, Sebastian, first?
Like my first digital camera,
Yeah, if you remember.
it was like a Sony something.
Nice. Yeah,
Something.
you guys are shooting Sony now too, so
Your first digital
Yeah,
camera was a Sony?
they had point and shoots,
yeah, they
I
had
think.
point and
Oh,
shoot.
okay, okay.
Yeah, they
Wow.
had point and shoot.
Oh, I'll never forget mine. It was the Canon 7D.
Nice.
Because
Wait a second.
I was in LaGuardia in 2000. I joined LaGuardia in 2009, and I bought that camera. I want to say I bought that camera like a few months later, and that was the camera. So it's the 5D, the original
Yeah.
5D,
Hmm.
which is like a legend in the DSLR history of cameras. And then the 7D was geared more towards video. It was an APS-C camera, but it was a monster, and it was a at the time that was like you had the 5D. I don't know if the 5D Mark II had come out then, but definitely the 7D was the camera for video at the time.
Or video. I remember. Now that you say, I do remember. I had the 5D. I remember I had named it Amelie. I named the camera.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think I remember that too. Yeah,
But
that
it
name
was
sounds familiar though.
it was the 5D Mark II. That's the one that I named. I was looking for a camera. My friend at the time had this 7D because he told me that he I was doing photography, but he was doing more video. And then you had the 7D. I remember you having the 7D, especially when we were roommates or we were,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. The
um,
7D
it was fantastic. One of the best cameras. The 5D Mark II for me was where that's where the one that I it was like my girlfriend because I named it Amelie. I carried up and down. I remember that's the time I was riding the bike. Remember, I was riding my
Yeah,
bike.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you had 10 speed, right?
I have a car, so I will ride my bike, and go to school with that.
At that
So
time, it was the 5D Mark II and the 7D. The 5D was like, it had been out for a couple of years, but it was like 2009 era was the 5D Mark II and the Canon 7D. So that the 7D was like,
and the Mark
yeah.
III came out, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then,
Mark III came out maybe like a couple of years after, but
but then yeah,
when I bought the 7D, that was the camera to have for video, and I loved it. I mean, I think you know, being my first digital camera, it was just excellent. It was built like a tank. I mean, you could drop that thing and it was great quality. I was in love with Canon at the time. The lenses
I
were
was
great.
sorry to interrupt, but I was not. I remember I was actually a Nikon guy the entire time up until I switched to the 5D, the Mark.
Yeah, I always remember you as a Nikon guy. Like
Yes,
if you
I had
ask me,
yes. So I did have I don't remember the model. I'm really bad at So the DSLR that I had, it was Johnny help me out.
I don't remember the camera you had,
D,
to be honest with you.
D, D,
What, D3 maybe? D3X?
something like
D3H?
that.
D2?
One of those I had, and that's why I was carrying my Nikon film camera, which was like the F5.
Hmm.
At one point, I had an F1, an F5. But the F5 was just it was like fantastic. I mean, the Nikon was absolutely fantastic, and then I just switched to the 5D Mark II. It was a great switch. It really, it took me a little bit to get adjusted. You couldn't get really familiar with him with switch of equipment. But then after that, it was it was weird because I was a Nikon guy. I was like always doing Nikon, talking about it, the equipment. I love the setup of the buttons of the camera. It was so intuitive that it was fantastic to just grab it and go. And then the 5D just I don't know all the lenses that Canon had at the time. It was great. It was amazing. All the work.
Well, honestly, I think the reason why you had such a hard time transition is because a lot of the controls are backwards compared to Canon. So you're zooming focus in opposite directions. So that's probably the reason why. So instead of zooming in, you'd be zooming out, and vice versa. So that's probably one of the reasons why I have a similar issue too when I bounce around Canon and Nikon. So I get that completely.
Still think that just because the thing is it was easier because everybody was was using Canon, so it was like Louis was saying the brand to go and it was the model to have.
not only that, but also the school carry the Canon stuff. The school was
Right.
But I was
carrying
going to say, yeah, the
the
school went to
5D.
LaGuardia Community College.
I
For
still
anyone who
think that the
didn't know.
Nikon for me was a much better, just transition from just being an artist or just drafting, drawing to trying to use the equipment as a medium and actually, try to perfect it and try to utilize the technology, to use the technology itself, from all these cameras. Because at the beginning it was, just film. It was more important to try to get the film developed and all of that. So, and then you start getting with the cameras and how.
Do you see yourself getting another F5 anytime soon, or in the future?
In the future, that's for sure. I mean, it's one of those cameras that I would love to have just as a collection. It's definitely a beautiful
Yeah.
camera, piece of equipment to have. My nieces are interested in photography. They literally just took the only point and shoot that I had in here. that the lens was not working, but listen, you can take it. But I'll definitely have it just because I don't know, just to be able to teach the kids. Also, it's a monster. It's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's so heavy. It's I don't know. It makes you understand. You can get a really good sense of what it was, to be a photojournalist and carry all that equipment, because now you're carrying a really good piece of equipment that it's professional, and you're thinking about all these people in all the fields, not just photojournalism, but the amount of equipment that you have to carry back and forth. So yeah, nowadays we have lighter stuff and everything, but it's fantastic to remember and to understand what the length, that the strength that you have to, and how you have to be prepared to make sure you carry all this stuff. I don't know, I just think it would.
Speaking of carrying all this stuff, I mean, are you guys all using iPhones by chance? You guys have iPhones, right?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself using that more now than anything? To take your pictures? Speaking of lightening up the load, I mean, with the 28 mil plus you have zoom lenses and all that. Do you find yourself using your phone now more to take pictures?
I mean,
Or do
not
you
me.
still refer?
No, I mean, I think it's convenient, and like, you do have like raw options, and when I've gone to like places like India and stuff like that, I have kind of like tried using the phone. The advantage that the phone has is just very compact, and like it sometimes you're just holding the phone up, and like people don't really realize that you're taking a picture. So that's kind of the advantage. But I mean, me personally, I'd rather, just have the camera, an actual camera, and shoot, bit of with
Well,
a
I'm curious though.
larger
I
sensor.
was gonna.
I do want to say that obviously, Karen, you just having to do your work and having to shoot all the time or try to stay within the business of photography also helps you with that. I deviated to, obviously, not that I wanted to. I was reluctant to use the phone, but I started playing with it. And one thing that I wanted to show that I had right here, because I figure this might come up, and it was that it was easier for me to make
Mhm.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. And
Oh yeah, now with the kid too, especially. I mean, the phone is like the ultimate tool. So
I don't know if you remember this one.
Oh, that was last year. Was it last year or 2 years
Yeah, but
ago?
this is all shot with medium format. This is a fantastic book. This is
Yeah, this is, wait, wasn't
that's
this,
Marcella's book, right?
this is Marcella's camera, right?
Yeah, this is Marcella Cusulin's the day that she came, and we spent the day, we went hiking, we were shooting.
And you
So
created, you did the book, you sent it out.
she sent me the pictures, and
She sent you the, okay.
oh my goodness. And it was so fantastic that same day was the day that Florencia, my daughter, she learned how to bike. So I recorded in the best way possible with like a professional photographer. I
Yeah.
recorded the moment. She did a
That being
fantastic job.
that
Whenever
being
we
said
went to the
too, now
waterfall.
that I was gonna say, now that you're showing these books, do you think your phone has quality to actually produce, images like that for a book as well too, or
No,
no?
no, no, no. You can tell the difference from a professional photographer and a good equipment versus a regular, regular
Yeah.
album of yeah.
Well, the reason why I'm asking too, because as you know, there's a lot of commercials now shot with iPhones and stuff like that too. So, I'm just kind of curious. Do you think that that the phones are up to snuff when it comes to resolution, and quality to produce books like that? No.
Well, a book that small, maybe, but I mean, you're going to see a
You
major
know,
difference in, oh, go ahead.
no, 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 no. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, go ahead, Sebastian.
Well, I just wanted to say that at the end of the day, if you do use the equipment and kind of try to use all the tools that comes with the phone, you can get really close to to all that. There's so many gigs and so many ways that you can tweak. Just you have like a dark room in the phone, and they try to keep it close to what the tools are for the photographers, or like what you used to do in a dark room where you're dodging, and all those tools are in the phone. So if you learn a little bit, a couple of tricks on how to use it, you will create a better image. Your image will stand out. So I don't think you'll get to the level of a professional photographer with good equipment. The feeling is completely different. You have depth of field that you can still work it out, but we'll get closer with technology, with AI, and that's
So real quick, Sebastian, can you pull up that book one more time?
this one.
Yeah. So basically, that was shot by our good friend Marcella, and she's an amazing photographer. She's a wedding photographer. She went to school with us. She is definitely one of the professional photographers that we know, and she just takes amazing pictures, and I think that's definitely somebody that we would definitely want to have on the podcast as a guest, and she can give us her knowledge, her experience with photography, and definitely different types of stories and stuff like that will be interesting to hear.
And this is the moment she was running without the.
Yeah, that was the first time she
I
without the
I was up here
The
from
training wheels.
and I was
yes.
looking down, and I'm like, wow, Florencia, my daughter is finally going without the training wheels. And then I see Marcella capturing the moment. I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect.
Yep.
It was great to have her, and definitely a must have in the
That's
show
for the show. Yeah.
for, as a guest, a must have guest.
So now that we're actually talking about all the tools that we use on our phones, such as the whole Siri AI thing, I'm just curious, what are your opinions on AI in photography nowadays? Given the fact that photography is supposed to be, I guess you could say, the drawing of light, but with AI, you're not actually drawing with any light. You're just having them produce an image based on what you can visualize. So what's your opinion of that? Do you consider that real photography? Yes, no, maybe? What do you think?
Go ahead, Sebastian.
Well, that's a tough one. But I love AI. I do. I believe that just like any other tools, it's a technology that we are. It's just gonna help bring more creative people to the environment that did not have the opportunity or do not have the opportunity to use certain equipment. So you're going to be able to change things based on your vision, based on your ideas, on your imagination, and you will be able to, instead of spending the money on adding certain things, props, you will be able to create the image. Yes, it's taken away from the actual fact. It's a really difficult topic for me because I love analog photography. I believe in having the dark room and making your image. It's what brought me into photography, but I cannot deny what technology is doing and what it's bringing to the table. I was very adamant about digital photography, but eventually, I cave in. The Canon. We were talking about the 5D Mark II, and many others, and well, then using digital backs on view cameras, or medium format cameras. It was just a great way to experience. So going back to the AI topic, um, that's what I personally feel right now that is doing. It's just gonna help the. So if you cannot buy certain lenses, so you cannot afford to have the 1.8, 1.4 f-stop, lens that it's, costing you $3,000, right? And now you can tell you can create an image and then just tell AI what to change on it. So as a human, now you're able to not just paint with light. Now you're painting with your imagination. Now you're just telling, the
But then that's the question, though. I mean, is it truly photography, or is this at this point in time graphic design? Because it's not truly photography because there is no photo involved. The end result is an image, but not so much a photo. You're not capturing it.
right,
Nobody's capturing
right.
it. So this is literally more like a painting or a drawing, of reality than it actually is a photo of reality, is it not? I mean, that's my only question. I mean, do you think that there could be a lot of, I guess you could say, dishonesty coming from, AI, images, versus photography?
Well, look, I think to be honest, it's more like a mixed medium. I will call it that way. Now it's a digital mixed medium, right? Mix, it's just like you have a collages, like you have all mixed art, mixed media, mixed media, and you're now just using photography as part of that. So I don't guess I won't call it photography. I guess I'm gonna piss somebody off.
No, I
Um,
mean that's fair. I share the same opinion. I don't consider that
but it's
photography,
very
but I mean,
basic. It's
yeah.
I don't tend to to argue with that. I used to argue with that a lot, obviously. And yes, when I was just so passionate about just the film, which I still am. So there is it's like drafting. Let's put it that way, okay? You used to do floor plans and used to do blueprints. You call it blueprints nowadays, but they're in blue anymore. They're just prints from white
Fair point. Fair
paper. But it used to be oh, interesting. Look what I have. A blueprint from back in the days.
A blueprint that's not blue.
Well, this paper used to be, used to kind of be bluish.
Hmm.
Time. This is a very old piece of paper, so the ink changed. They could have also used some of like really dark blue. But now, are you a draftsman if you're drawing with a computer? You know what I'm saying? Now you're still drawing, but now you're not using your hand. You're not using the rulers. You're using you. I'm a draftsman personally, so I do that. So now I start to put that together, and it's a difficult thing. I guess if your main topic or your main
Definition of photography.
I would say ingredient. Let's call it ingredient. If your main ingredient is photography, meaning you are setting up, you're doing a setup where you're shooting, and then you do a lot of after work effects. I would say, okay, you know what? If you're doing the effort, let's. I would say that I'm not. I'm not gonna like create a. It's because of the drafting, topic that I'm thinking about. Like, I learned how to draw by hands with the ink and marks, and then you had to like just blueprints. And nowadays, nobody. I mean, we do sketches by hand because people, sketch up things really quick and this and that. But it's the same thing. Now you don't get to sketch up in a piece of paper. You have Apple Pencil, a pencil, digital pencil. Everything's done digitally. So we're going towards that. And with AI, it's a different monster. I think it's just a completely different monster. It's just like putting on a suit, like a super, strength suit.
Iron Man or something like that.
Like, yeah, like Iron Man
Yeah.
type of thing, and you're like a superhuman.
So I'm
So
curious, Lewis. What's your input on this?
I think there's advantages and disadvantages to AI in photography in the photography field. Obviously, I mean, I look at it in the working photographer side where, things like headshots and portraits and all this stuff, I think eventually that's going to go away because, it feels like I've had people send me stuff like headshots through AI model or AI apps, and it looks pretty impressive. And there's a lot of headshot photographers out there. And that's, I feel like that's going to cut on their, their bottom line, their business. And so in that aspect, I feel that it's not a good thing. I mean, I think AI is just going to kill a lot of different jobs, not just in photography, but in different fields of work. The advantages, I would say, is, if you're trying to create something, something out of the blue, and maybe you have an imagination, and if you are an artist, and I think AI would be something that can kind of help you start off. It's like a starting point, and then from there, it's like you have the ability to tweak it, um, make it your own, kind of tell AI what exactly it is that you want, what's your vision for that image or that particular artwork. So I've seen a lot of artwork, and I've seen a lot of images that are created with like Mid Journey and stuff like that. And I feel that for those type of artists, it's an advantage. It's going to cut on the amount of time that you have to actually do work, and it's like, it's very helpful. So there's pros and cons. There's definitely pros and cons. As a working photographer, I feel like, some of these jobs like headshots and portraits and stuff like that, I think eventually, I mean, I think it's pretty good right now, and it's only going to get better. So in that aspect, I think it's a little bit of a negative.
Yeah, it's funny for me. My thoughts of that, I mean, I can see the advantages, like you said, like if there's, I'm guessing there must be in AI and, Lightroom or Photoshop where, say, you take a picture, a portrait of somebody, and you get like a lamppost behind their head, and you say, "Oh, remove lamppost from photo." I get that, but then that also does take away from the skill of the actual photographer because, again, if you're just thinking back to the analog medium, you have to get your framing correct before you take the picture. So
But
therefore, it's kind of, like, are you actually aiding the photographer, or are you actually taking away from them and removing the potential skill set of being a better photographer with better vision?
to remove
So
things and people doing, you're still able to remove things and manage and do things with uh, photography, and it really comes from there. If you think about it, double exposures and all that, dodging cutouts. You can even if we start analyzing and using, let's take just 4 by 5 format. I see it from the creative artist
mhm,
point of view. I will cut out a piece of film,
mhm.
cutouts on the actual film, and then put other films to create images. And I will see what happens back in the days if I didn't have digital. So that's also manipulation, right? So we're talking about manipulation, and well, but with AI it's a little different because it's now it just goes straight from your brain directly to a machine that it's recreating, it's creating.
But then at that point in time, when does a photo no longer become a photo and just become, I guess, a processed image, Because I mean, I get, you could have an artwork as an artist where, you want, the final image to look a certain way, but is that still a photograph or is that now just, an edited image? Like how do do you have an opinion how you distinguish that? Like what's your definition of a real photo versus an art image, Or is there a difference?
I wanted to say something before it just came back to my mind, and is Salvador Dali, one of my favorite artists, of all times, said something about in an interview about Velasquez, right, the painter, the master Spanish painter, and he was asked about, they were talking about cubism, they were talking about his style of painting, and he said, and I want to quote, no, just no, not certain that he used these words, but he went on to say something. If you give a marker today to you give a marker to Velasquez and to create something with a medium, he's going to create a Velasquez. If you give the same equipment or the same tools to a stupid person, it's gonna create a stupidity. It's gonna create whatever, or you give it to Johnny, it's going to create a Johnny. You're going to give it to Sebastian, it's going to create a Sebastian. At the end of the day, the creative process is personal. How the artist solves that issue, it's their own. But I think it shouldn't be personally, it shouldn't be a big deal. Photography is photography. It's very straightforward. You shoot it, and then what you do afterwards with it, you can make it into art. You can turn it into art. Okay, I took a picture. Fine. You know, you're not gonna go to a photo shoot of a wedding and say, all right, guys, I'm gonna take 2 pictures of you, one of you standing, and that's it. So nowadays you're just gonna be able to take 2 portraits of the person and just send it out and tell AI, hey, a couple, jumping behind, the sunset with rose petals, dropping from the sky, and we can tell everything, and you don't need to do anything. So yeah, I mean, I believe nowadays you can do that. You don't even need to do a shoot. You can probably send him a picture, a person, and you're gonna create a whole photo shoot from it. You create today,
So
create cinematography, right? You can create videos. So I mean, AI is doing all of this now. We don't need nowadays. This is how we're gonna put it. You're either gonna go out to the sea tomorrow, and you're gonna say, Sebastian, we're going sailing tomorrow, and we're gonna choose. We're gonna go out on a wooden boat sailing, or we're gonna go on a latest, carbon fiber, state of the art, sailboat. You choose what you want. We are the vessel. We have a technology, and we're gonna choose now. I believe you can create now just from thinking, right? That's what AI is from. You're gonna be able to say, verbalize what you need, describe it, because at the end of the day, if you're creating an image, before you create an image, you have to have some sort of observation, right? And that's for any type of art. So you are observing is the key. You have to observe, and then as a photographer, you observe the environment, you observe what's happening, how everything is working out, and then you make a decision, right? This is what I want, and it gets closer to the result of what you were looking for, and then you tweak it, not afterwards. I'm talking tweaking it with inside when you're shooting. Well, today you're going to be able to see what you see and just describe the whole image. Got it in a 4x5. I've done it. I created images and do the setup, and I have told the AI, the Chat GPT or whatever tool that I'm using, let's use a Sinar bag with a lens of this type, a 90 millimeter, 105 millimeter lens with a 2.0, whatever the case is. So right now you're able to literally just pick your tools up in the space, up in the air, and put them together. You do what you want, or you can just go grab a camera and you can do it the old way. I don't think there's going to be a difference. Now you're just going to be able to do what you want. The world.
So with that argument, then what is the point of even pursuing photography if you could just have a third party do everything for you? I mean, what's the purpose of this art now if you can just have AI do everything for you? I mean, I hate to say it, it's kind of depressing. I had a customer, I sell motorcycles, and he came in saying, "Oh, I don't even know where I'm going to be in a couple of years." And I asked him, "Well, where are you going?" "Oh, I don't know. I could be, downstairs in hell, upstairs in heaven." I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he said the same thing. "Oh, with the advent of AI, like what's the purpose of human life? There is no purpose anymore." So not going that drastic and that dramatic, but is there still a purpose of the arts if you can just dictate and have something create all this for you? What's the point of even grabbing a camera at that point? So I just thought, hey, I want an image of my kid doing X, Y, and Z instead of you capturing that moment. So I mean, what's your opinion?
I have a say in that, and it's that big as human life. It's because it is this big. We are at a turning point. We are a renaissance moment, a new renaissance time in humanity. And there is one thing that AI cannot yet reproduce, and nothing can reproduce this yet, and it's your own personal experience that not only comes from the minute that you are born or that you are conceived. Okay, this is just as large as as life, and it's the fact that now our experience with the tools that we choose to use, whether it's a camera, a point and shoot, a phone, AI, it's going to still be different from person to person because we're different individuals. That it's my belief that the information that comes through us or that has come to us in the present day, or every human comes with a bunch of information, right? It comes with a bunch of information from generations, and we bring that, right? It's just like when we used to hide in caves. And why did you do it? Because you were trying to be safe. You were hiding from big animals, from the weather. And now we make houses. You don't even know why you're trying to buy a house, but it's like going to the bathroom. You don't think about taking a shower. You don't go to the shower and think, oh, water. How do I open the water? No, you just literally just walk in, and all of a sudden there's water pouring into your head, and you're just taking a shower. So I think that the experience, the personal experience, and still in the human touch, it's still intact, and it's still important because that information cannot be reproduced with anything. Every single little thing makes you change, right? We're talking about the metaverse, different dimensions, different lives, different possibilities, different. We are the ones that decide our destiny. I believe that we can choose what happens to us, and there are so many paths. And now we're talking about black holes, all these waves.
Yeah, dude. I think you guys both hold a degree. I mean, I only have 30 some odd credits. I'm not sure I can actually keep up with this conversation.
No, I mean, I'm not talking as an expert, but from reading all this information that it's being brought to us with the new technology, with the new understanding of black holes, I mean, AI is possible because of the capability in computing that we have nowadays, the speed of computing that it's still growing, and we're within 5 years we're going to be in a completely different world. So with that said, everything affects us. The sun, the day, every single day, it's going to be a different. It's going to be a chance to choose a different path, to build something different. So it's not going to change. It's not that AI is going to make cameras and refrigerators disappear, and walls and plants and everything disappear. We're just going to experience life in a completely different way. I think it's going to free us. It's going to free us because
Sebastian,
yeah.
I hate to break this to you, but anytime there's talk of AI, something always comes up. You know what that is? You've seen Terminator 2, man. I mean, shit, yeah, things ain't gonna be the same no more. We're gonna get our asses smoked, but that's all other stories.
Terminator movie this past week at the generation something.
So that's how you're doing your research?
No.
Yeah,
I watched the movies. I thought, I haven't seen it in a long time. I saw one with my niece, another one with my daughter and my son, and I got hooked, and I ended up watching one more while I was doing some paperwork. But
well, speaking of things to come and all that, now that we're talking about the future, July 4th is right around the corner. So, I mean, with that being said, as you know, it's a perfect opportunity to, practice some night photography and shoot some fireworks. That being said, have you guys had any experience shooting fireworks before?
I definitely did it a couple of times. As you can see, I'm a big Mets fan, so when I was in living in Queens, I used to go out every year. I would check to see when fireworks night was at Citi Field, and I definitely there was one summer that I actually went to the game, but I didn't actually go inside the game. I just literally went to the game and waited until like 10:30 in the evening when the fireworks went off, and I set up the tripod and got some really nice images of the front of Citi Field with the fireworks lighting up, and I remember doing a lot of research, and I remember just kind of like trying to figure out what the best way of photographing fireworks was. And yeah, I was kind of excited, and I ended up getting some really nice images. I don't know if I have those images anymore, but we'll definitely share them if I can find them. But Johnny, you definitely you've shot some really nice fireworks stuff, and I think you would be the guy to kind of explain to us a little bit about how that works.
Well, that or I was going to say, don't worry too much about not finding it. As Sebastian said, with AI, you can just dictate, how the image should have looked, and you'll be fine. So,
Before you go, we are gonna have Luis. Are we gonna have our headshot in Greenwood Lake, 4th of July?
Damn, you're putting me on the spot.
On the spot, right?
Yeah. Yes, we are going to have it. Absolutely.
We're trying to do this event July 4th, so we hopefully we will be doing headshots for the people in town. So I just want to say that. But anyway, going back to fireworks, which is going to be the next day for us here.
100%. So Johnny, explain to us, you have a little bit of experience with shooting fireworks. So yeah, just explain the process of that image, and what the whole process is, what kind of gear that you use. Is there any specific techniques that you need to know when shooting fireworks?
all right. So this shot in particular was a little abnormal compared to most people shooting fireworks. Reason being is because it was shot with a super telephoto focal length, versus most people would generally be shooting with a wide angle and or standard focal length. That particular shot was shot actually upstairs in my room, and yeah, I live over in New Jersey where I'm on a hill and you can actually see out to the city. So as you notice with that particular image, there's quite a bit of telephoto compression, so it looks like the fireworks are right on top of the buildings. That being said, to achieve this, I used my Canon 6D Mark II, which is right over here. A 600 mil with a 1.4 extender, effectively giving you 840 millimeters. From what I saw in the settings, I believe it was shot at around ISO 800 to 1600. Only reason why I'm able to do that because newer cameras are actually capable of decent performance at high ISO. And with that being said, there were quite a few challenges when shooting that. Well, one of the biggest things is I have wood floors, and as most people who have done long exposures may or may not know, any movement can affect the outcome, and you can cause vibration and motion blur. So with that being said, I did have guests over that time, and we were all staring out into the city and watching the fireworks go off, and I had to tell everybody, hey, do not move. I'm about to take a picture. And everybody had to stay perfect still. Just by them breathing, they're able to actually shake the floor because, as you know, wood absorbs vibration and it kind of passes it along too. And I was using carbon fiber tripod, which is not the most ideal for vibration damping, I was told. I was told traditionally, according to a lot of large format guys, wood's the way to go. In any case, that was challenging. Of course, the best thing to do is have a cable release if possible. If not, then you'll have to do it with a self timer. You would want to set it to lower increments, ideally 2 seconds, because if you're waiting 10 seconds, all the action would have been gone already. So keep it short. And my exposure times were anywhere between half a second to about a second and a half, 2 seconds at the longest. The way I was able to get it right at its peak when it was actually exploding was trigger the shutter the moment you see it start flaring out. Reason being is because if you decide to do it beforehand, you may actually have a lot more other light that may pollute into the image potentially. So that's how I did it for those particular shots. Again, that's a very abnormal thing. Most people would not be shooting with super tele for fireworks. It's generally done with wide angle and normal focal lengths. So I don't expect a lot of people to be doing the same thing as me, nor will they be tackling the same issues that I would have had.
Did you find it a little bit more difficult with a telephoto over, shooting with a wide angle?
Generally, yes, because with telephoto, depending how extreme the focal lengths are, you could even potentially see the movement of the atmosphere, believe it or not, or the movement of the earth. Granted, I'm not at those extremes, depending on the subject that you're looking at. For example, if you're trying to photograph the moon, you will definitely notice that. Luckily, but these buildings are quite stationary. So, but yes, not as, what was that?
Thank God the buildings don't move. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. Thank God they don't move, that's for sure.
Quite stationary.
Yeah.
They don't move. There is one building in the city that moves, by the way. So
yeah, it's not in my picture, so we're fine.
So you're using a shutter release as well to kind of keep the camera.
So Yeah, so as I told you, I'm using my 6D Mark II. And with the 6D Mark II, I was using a Gitso. I had to write this down early because you were nagging me about getting details. A GT3 3533 LS, or I guess the long legs. It's coupled with the Wimberley Gimbal WH200, which is a gimbal setup for my 600 mil with a 1.4 extender. I was using Canon TC80M3, which is their remote control that actually allows you to set different shutter times and along with other functions, including intervals and stuff like that, a bunch of stuff. So those were some of the tools that I used for that particular shot that you see. So
Okay. Any difficult? What is like the biggest difficulty of shooting a shot like that?
keeping people still and not moving because everybody was in my room, so that was a little challenging.
Yeah. Okay. You have
Well,
any questions for?
in terms of the image or timing of the fireworks, like because or how did I'm sorry, what did you say the speed was?
Anywhere from half a second to 1.5 seconds, two at the longest.
Okay, all right, and all right. So I guess you should. I mean, how do you know? Well, there's a ton of freaking.
Well, I'm just watching it. I mean, I have it on live view the whole time, and as soon as you see it pop up, then you just hit the shutter. So there, I will have to hand it to digital. It does make life a lot easier versus shooting film. So yeah, just had it set up on a tripod. Flip screen out like this the whole time, and as soon as it clicks off, click, and that's it. So
All right.
that's pretty
So
easy.
the most important thing about getting that shot is living on a hill on the side of New Jersey.
Honestly, that is true. I mean, yeah, vantage point is the biggest thing. I mean, that's why I said most people won't have the
Location,
same
right?
opportunity or shot. Yeah,
Location
so
is important. Location is
yeah,
important. You gotta have to pick a side. You have to make sure that you're in a place that can give you your desired result, right?
mhm.
Very cool. Like, make sure you leave by Johnny if you want to do fireworks. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, actually, believe it or not, it's funny you mentioned that. All along the street, there are certain streets where you can actually see right out to the city, with no obstructions. So yeah, if you want to, I would say this is actually an excellent area to do city shots.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, great tip for you're gonna have a ton of people coming over.
Now, are they? I'm not in New York and haven't been in New York for a few, but
Me neither. I'm
do
in
they
Jersey.
do they still switch from the Hudson to the East River?
I don't know. The past couple of times, I think it's been on the Hudson, if not mistaken. I honestly don't know. I mean, yeah.
Okay, because you would get it. You definitely get a better. You think it would be better if it was on the Hudson instead of the East River
It's a little bit closer. I guess you clear the buildings easier, so probably.
to clear the buildings? Yeah.
I'm guessing. I
Also,
mean,
it's gonna depend on the shot that you want. Where
Yeah, that particular shot. I mean, I love that shot.
your
You did a
place.
great job. You did a great job with that shot, and it's just just the whole
It
New
looks
York City skyline and the
yeah, thanks. Honestly, I was just winging it. I mean, I was just in the room, just trying to get a better look at the fireworks. I was like, oh, why not shoot it while I'm at it? Since I got live view running anyway. So
right. Awesome,
So
awesome.
it's interesting how Johnny just said, "Yeah, I don't know, I just wing it." But when he was explaining, it was like listening to freaking Einstein. Just like,
I mean, it's funny enough, all the technique is involved in it, but I wasn't really planning on making that image. I was just saying, hey, I'll just wing it, click the button, see what I get out of it, and I actually got some decent shots, the past 2 years. But honestly, there was no true intentions of photographing. It's just
you
winging it and testing it. So
for this year,
was that?
you setting up for this year? Are you
Well, I think I'm too poor to actually leave the house. So yeah, if I'm stuck here for July 4th, I'll probably be shooting it. I mean, yeah,
So more than
probably.
likely, we're going to be together on July 4th at Greenwood
Well,
Lake.
yeah, in that case, that ain't gonna happen because I'm up by you guys. I ain't shooting this thing, so I ain't come back down and just shooting. So
we are gonna have the fireworks the next day, so you're gonna do
yeah.
the
You have to
first.
shoot it from a boat. Well, the boat
Well,
is going 20 miles an hour.
well,
Well,
that's a little challenging.
it's
Challenge
But I
is the
mean,
name of the game.
yeah, maybe for you. But well, that being said, too, I guess a little tip
What
for
will you what will you use? What will you use if you were like on a boat, by the East River, trying to take a photo of the
Stabilizer.
right? I'm getting people nauseous. Like just
or anchor the boat. I don't know. Honestly, yeah, it's funny. I mean, now that you mention it, I don't know how effective it would be because if you do a shorter exposure, with ultra high ISO, provided that you don't get a lot of noise, you might not get the same flare effect. Because as you know, the flare effect is almost like capturing smooth water. So if you have a high shutter speed, you ain't getting smooth water. You're freezing the water's movement. So I think same thing with the shooting at night in fireworks, because the whole thing that you're seeing is actually the light, slowly falling off. So if you just freeze it midair, you'll just get speckles instead of, the nice trail, I think. So
Stabilizer. That's gonna close.
oh,
Yeah.
there's that. Yeah.
Or you could just go the abstract way and just make it, nice abstract shot of
Yeah, I don't
fireworks.
know. I mean,
That's more Sebastian's alley than you.
yeah, I don't know. Once upon a time, we were in this in the photo club. I'm not gonna name who the person was, but they submitted an image, a night photography image, where the buildings were all blurry and stuff like that, and they're all critiquing. Oh yeah, so nice, it's abstract. And I'm thinking, no, that's nonsense. It's just you didn't have the proper technique, you didn't have the proper gears, you didn't get the shot. That mistake wasn't abstract. Anybody could have screwed up and got that shot. That's not intentional. There was no purpose behind that shot. So I don't know about that, but that's just my opinion. Call me a stickler about that, but
No, it could be.
Yeah.
It could be that just didn't work out for that class particular. But it can be. I play where I just move the camera and just.
Well, yeah, I mean that's different, where you have intentional movement or even say zoom blurs. I get that because that is truly unique and you're actually attempting something. You not being able to hold the camera, steady for 10 seconds and get the shot sharp, that's a whole other story. So
Oh yeah, of course.
yeah, so that's a different story. So
Johnny's gonna shoot you right now.
well, yeah, I mean, again, that's just my opinion of what I feel, a proper shot and what actual photography is. I mean, who am I to say, what is photography, what is, a photo, right? So
You try to use the phone.
oh yeah, for my girl, I always use my phone to capture her, because I just can't bring the camera with me everywhere.
No,
So
I mean for the fireworks, like to try to play around with the settings to see if you can get like a longer exposure.
honestly, I could try that this year just because up until this year, I've been on an iPhone 6S, and as you know, that thing's like shooting through a potato. So now with the slightly newer phone, maybe I can attempt it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
All right, so this segment, this section of the episode, we're going to have a segment called This and That. Basically, we're going to pin two subjects against each other, and each one of us is going to pick one, and we're just gonna explain a little bit of why we picked one or the other. So you guys ready? And by the
Go
way,
for it.
Sebastian, so I made the list this week. Each week we'll just take turns, but so I know, I have the list, and Sebastian and Johnny, this is the first time they're going to be hearing the list. So here we go. So number one, Canon or Sony?
Canon. Who's answering?
Why?
No, Sony. I have a Sony.
Okay, is it either Canon or Sony? Which one is it?
Sony.
Sony? Okay, explain why.
Because I have one right now. I mean, it seems like I'm getting used to the cameras that I have. The what is it? The A7, the 7 3 A3. That's why. I don't know.
Is that fair? That works.
Okay.
No,
Johnny?
no, Canon. What do you say? I mean, right now it's
Explain.
because I don't want Sony to take over.
Take over what? Like AI is taking over?
Yeah.
You're more worried about Sony taking over AI?
Whoever got too many Sony TVs.
Okay. Johnny?
Well, that's you. I'm poor. I have LG TVs. There's a big difference. Or Samsung. I forgot what brand.
So Johnny, I already know what you're gonna say.
Sony, right? Of course,
No.
obviously Sony.
Absolutely not. You're a Canon guy, through and through.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Sony's nice, but yeah, I'm a Canon guy.
Okay, explain it. So that's the only reason?
Well, I mean, history. I started with a Canon. As a matter of fact, the earliest recollection of the first camera before the Rebel 2000 I was telling you guys about on the previous episode was a Canon ELPH was my serious camera that used APS. And then from there, I eventually graduated to the Rebel 2000. And then from there, just more and more Canon stuff. And yeah, I just like their stuff. It all makes sense. They have a lot of history. They have a lot of cool items that were quite innovative. I believe, if not mistaken, they were the first ones to ever have a 1/2000 shutter speed on a camera, which is a Canon Flex R2000. Yeah, so yeah, they went head to head, as the underdogs against Leicas, making excellent Leica copies. They actually combined their viewfinder and rangefinder together before Leica even did, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe, yeah, because I know the M3 came out, I think 54. I think Canon at that time already had some, a handful of rangefinders with integrated, rangefinder viewfinders. So yeah, for me, it'd have to be Canon.
Awesome. For me, that's a tough one. I mean, I started with Canon. I've been shooting with Sony for the last 10 years, and
Traitor.
I
Whoa.
feel a little bit like a traitor, but now I feel at home. But honestly, I think I
And
always
not
like I say that again.
Nikon. You didn't give me
Nikon.
an option. You didn't give me an
Yeah,
option.
Yeah, option
yeah.
C, right?
I'll
I
go
think
back to Nikon anytime.
I think at the end of the day, you know, Johnny would be Canon, I would be Sony, and you would be Nikon. It's that kind
Yeah,
of
but
fits.
given what's on the table, I'm guessing still canon for Sebastian. Then I guess.
Yeah.
I guess lots of history.
It's a tough one for me, but I think I always loved Canon, and I think if Canon would have, you know, took the mirrorless system more seriously when it first started, I think I would never have left Canon. Um,
I
I'm gonna choose Canon. I'm gonna choose
Oh
Canon, even though
wow!
you're gonna
Wow!
I've
you
been
know
shooting
that.
Sony for 10 years. I would choose Canon because I think at the
Wow.
end of the day, I think the
We'll
colors
never
are.
get the ambassador freaking title anymore from Sony.
Oh, you know what? Let's delete that. Let's go ahead and change that to Sony. No, honestly, yeah, I like Sony, and they're, you know, the
We'll see.
lenses are
I
super
thought you were
sharp.
gonna.
I
I
think
thought
at
you,
the end of the day, if I could restart all over again, I would probably go with Canon.
I thought you were gonna. Now that you're saying all this, honestly, I thought you're gonna take the videography path full time, like just video. I thought
I
you.
don't know. I think deep down, Lewis, despite him doing video, he's still more photographer than videographer. I
A
think.
Look,
100%, I'm more of
his
a
heart is a
photographer.
7D heart. It's just like it's written in his freaking back. 7D.
Yeah, and another cool thing about Canon I like is the fact that they have so much legacy glass from their EF system that they have OEM adapters that allow you to use all that. So I mean, for me, if you're just talking specifically, I guess mirrorless to mirrorless, and for me, despite owning a handful of Sony's, I really wish I got well, actually, I used to have a Canon mirrorless. What am I talking about? I have the EOS M, so I actually had that, and I brought that with me in South Africa way back. So yeah, so I've actually had one of the earlier ones. That was an APS-C mirrorless camera before they really kicked off and got big into the mirrorless system. Yeah, so for me, still Canon through and through.
Awesome. So Canon, Canon, and Canon.
Yeah.
Next,
It's a landslide. Okay. Awesome. So I'm gonna jump around. I mean, I have some really interesting ones here, but we're just gonna jump around. Steve McCurry or Sebastião Salgado, which just passed away a few weeks ago.
that's right. Weeks? Was it weeks or
Yeah,
months?
that was like 2, 3 weeks ago he passed away.
Gotta be a couple months, isn't it?
Maybe I'm off. You might be right. I don't know. For me, it was like maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I don't know. Sebastião Salgado versus Steve McCurry.
Yeah, May 2025, the 23rd. You're right. It was a couple. Yeah, it's like about a month.
Yeah.
Fantastic work. Fantastic work of Sebastián Salgado. Sebastián Salgado.
So,
Johnny, I'm sorry. You said I was just looking at Sebastián.
Dude, you guys
go ahead.
talk photographer is completely foreign to me. I know Scott's gonna kill me because I think I should know, the latter, but I don't know. I mean,
Go ahead, Sebastian. You start.
No, I didn't. I forgot. Where were the options? Sorry, we're just coming to like we were talking about the what do you call the the path
Sebastián Salgado's work or Steve McCurry's work?
I will say Sebastián Salgado. Salgado's work. It's he hits closer to me. Just he's Brazilian, right? So as a Brazilian guy, I think his work. I don't know. It's a tough one. The images. I will go. I will go with his black and white work. It's just, it's insane.
What was that?
It's got my name. It's got my name. I gotta choose Sebastian.
What
Sebastian.
was that process? Rotenol? Was he using
That
rotenol chemicals or something like that?
What's that?
He was using rotenol, right? Chemicals when he did that work with the miners.
I know you're gonna your style is more or less Steve McCurry. So
Don't jump ahead. Don't jump ahead. I asked you. It's yeah. So so Sebastián Salgado for you.
Definitely, that's for sure.
Sebastián for Sebastian.
Sebastian.
I never would have guessed.
Chiao.
Johnny.
Chiao.
I'm guessing I should know the other guy's work, but for me, between the two, I guess Steve McCurry's Afghan Girl pops into my mind first. So I guess just based on not really knowing both their work that much. One guy's more commercial based, despite his I guess in recent year his I guess controversies and stuff. But despite that, I guess for me, Steve McCurry, just because that one image pops up in my head as soon as you mentioned two names. So
So Steve McCurry
yeah,
for you.
you know me, I'm horrible with photographers, but there.
Yeah, I mean, Afghan Girls definitely has to be one of the most recognized photos. You may have never heard of Steve McCurry, but you know the photo of this, little Afghan girl with the most incredible eyes you've probably ever seen, and it's just that long stare into the lens. So that's like one of the, it's one of those photos that, you'll know
Why?
even if you're not into photography.
How come you put those two? Because it'll be interesting to know. Anyway, I want to know
I think
your.
they're two legends. I mean, they are they're kind of contemporaries as well. They've been or they were contemporaries during their time. I mean, Steve McCurry's still shooting, and but yeah, I just thought it was an interesting because they're both did a lot of great work. So
I
I
mean,
just thought,
portraits, they're amazing, but it's completely different. But and understanding how, I mean, we're talking about masters because how one guy does the same, make you feel the same way about a portrait of a person in black and white that it makes you feel with a color,
you're
portrait.
right. That's an interesting dichotomy.
So okay, that's a great, because you're putting us in two different topics. I
Yeah.
mean, two kinds of things, but or approaches. I would say two different approaches, but I'll go with Sebastian definitely for sure too.
It's
Yeah.
funny that you guys talk about these photographers. I actually have a story. So for me personally, if I was to choose a modern day photographer, it would be Joe McNally. Um, Funny enough, he's a commercial photographer. He's pretty well known for a lot of stuff. He's done a lot. And one of my favorite books of all time. You guys know me. I'm not about photography, nor am I about books. But his book actually owned two copies because I thought I lost it once. The Moment It Clicks. Honestly, one of the best books I've ever read because, well, number one, it's a picture book because again, the guy's a photographer, and every picture he has a story how he did it. The mentality he had and stuff like that at the time. Like sometimes when he's not certain of what's if he can do it, he's like, no, screw it, just wing it, shoot it, and try it, and it actually turned out. And the reason why I brought him up because I actually had a funny story long, long time ago before I used to work at B&H. He actually was doing a photo signing at B&H. And he's known as a Nikon ambassador. He's a Nikon guy through and through. He used to actually do Nikon school and stuff like that, or for VHSs and stuff, teaching how to shoot. And at that time, I was diehard Canon. You into Canon? I don't even want to bother with you. So he was actually signing autographs at B&H for one of his photos. I think he did some sort of metal work or something like that, or it had something to do with 9/11. I don't remember, but yeah, he was signing autographs, and my cousin Al brought me there. He got a copy of it, and he said, "Yo, John, you gonna get it?" Nah, forget it. He's shooting Nikon. I don't want his stuff. Think about it. God damn it! I should actually grab that picture, because it's actually a good picture, and he's a really good photographer, well-known photographer. So
Yeah,
I thought I have to just share that with you guys.
yeah, he's an excellent photographer. I actually I follow him on Instagram, and I just saw one of his images that he just posted, and it's just it's really impressive. Um, so yeah, so he is
What about you? What about you, Luis?
me
Uh,
100%, 100%. I respect Sebastian Salgado's work. It's in it's very impressive. But to me, I think the number one guy, the main inspiration, at least for me, for photography in general, is Steve McCurry. I mean, I think his work is just top notch. There's some images that you're just, I'm just blown away by his,
Look at this image of yours. This is fantastic. So I think your work is very, you can tell that you're inspired by him. With
100%, 100%. And I think one of the reasons the first time I went to India was because, looking at his work, and he spent years in India just going back and forth, and just looking at his work, it was just really inspiring. The color, he used to use Kodachrome, and which is a film that I would absolutely love to shoot with. It's no longer available, and I don't think
Dude, if you're about dynamic range, I can tell you firsthand. If you want dynamic range, that's not a film you're gonna want to shoot. And I'm telling you from experience. I shot plenty of that stuff. So
Right,
I mean,
but just the way the colors pop and the contrast and all this stuff is just really impressive. And yeah, just looking at his work all over the years and getting some of his books, and it's just one of the most inspiring photographers, definitely for me. So hands down, 100% Steve McCurry for me.
by the way, that being said, was he given the last role of Kodachrome to shoot? I don't remember. Was it him or was it
Yes,
another photographer? It was him, right?
no, it was him, and there is a documentary. You can probably find it on YouTube. But Steve McCurry with the last role of Kodachrome. So he goes to India. I think he shoots in Chelsea or
The
uh
last one.
Yeah,
yeah.
the last one
So
apparently.
he lives down in that area, West Fourth, somewhere around there, and he I think he photographed Robert De Niro in the documentary. But then, after taking a few shots in New York, he's like, screw this, I'm going to India. So he went to India and photographed these incredible like subjects. So if you've never seen that, if you want to see a really cool documentary about Steve McCurry, look it up on YouTube. Steve McCurry, The Last Role. I don't know if it's called that, but if you put the last role of Kodachrome by with Steve McCurry, you'll definitely find it. So
Yeah, I vaguely remember my cousin bringing that up. I think on the last roll, he actually hunted down a taxi cab that had license plate KR64, if I remember correctly. Because
something like that.
KR64 is the designation of the manufacturer's code for Kodachrome. So
Yeah,
yeah, so if I remember that correctly, I think that was the case.
yeah. So yeah, definitely check it out.
What
It's
is it
it's
called?
really cool. Just type in Steve McCurry, last roll of Kodachrome.
Speaking of Kodachrome, I actually still have a couple rolls in my freezer. I have the tungsten one, the regular 64, and also I think I have roll 200 in there.
Awesome. Eventually, you'll have to tell us about all your film. Let's move on. So basically, what was it? Two Steve McCurrys and one
Plastic
Sebastian
Ford.
Salgado.
Wow, beautiful pictures, man.
2-1. All right,
Amazing.
awesome.
I've seen this work. This is fantastic. This is amazing. Wow.
All right, you guys ready for the next one?
All right, let's hear it.
What do we got?
Let's
Okay,
see what else I don't know.
let's make it faster. Come on.
Are you all right? Photography versus painting.
No, that's easy for me. I can't pay for shit. So, photography it is. That's easy. That's not even a question.
Sebastian,
Wow.
I feel like this question is really for you. I feel like
This is how I feel right now. This is what you did to me right now. Wow. Ah, that's a very difficult choice to make. I'm gonna go with painting only. And that's a very tough choice because photography holds a very dear a place in my heart. Photography taught me one of the most important lessons in life, and is to let go. You lose a role, you don't develop that freaking thing right, and it doesn't matter how pretty it was in your head, how you think it was perfect timing. And it happened to me at the beginning a couple of times where I thought, wow, I had shot fantastic, amazing 1600, ISO film that I use. It's one of my favorite films, the 1600, ISO. And is it the 1600? Am I speaking right? Am I doing the right thing? Saying the
yeah,
right thing?
1600 ISO,
Yeah.
3200 ISO.
No, but it was a 1600 black and white. The what was
Are you talking about the T Max 3200? They have that in Ilford
no,
Delta
not a
3200.
T-Max. I'm talking about the 1600. It was a
Well, oh yeah,
Delta.
no, Fuji Neopan 1600.
Oh,
was it Fuji?
Fuji Neopan, I was Neopan 1600. That film stock went crazy expensive
Yeah.
once they discontinued it.
My goodness, I couldn't. I love the green on the 1600 black and white film. It was so. At the beginning, I used to shoot that, and when I was developing, I'll be so disappointed of knowing that I had taken a couple of good great shots, and I either opened up the camera, it got it just and lost the images forever. So photography holds definitely a dear place in my heart because it's a life lesson to just learn how to let go. I mean, it's that's it. And it really and it taught me how to let go with a great feeling because at the end of the day, I kept the image in my head and the feeling of creating and the process of creation. It's something that cannot be taken away. But painting, it's something that has been with me for for a very long time. I love painting, and I still think I can use photography and painting. Uh, I've used it, to do, to do mixed media work. I actually use photography and encaustic paint, which is the wax, right? So you have to paint, you have to paint while it's hot. So it's wax with pigments, and you probably know more about pigments than me, Luis, since you went to India. um, and it's yeah, and so I paint. I paint whenever I can. Uh, painting, painting. I can. It goes back to the masters of art. Painting and yeah. I'm sorry,
Awesome.
photography. I love it. I love it.
No,
I
that
love
that is an
it.
interesting.
It's
That
my
is an.
thing, but I have to give painting the
The edge.
well, it has an interesting. It's weird. I don't know how to say it because it's hard. I do more. I guess obviously I do more photography than painting, but oh yeah, I think this was wrong, Luis. This was wrong. This was wrong.
No, and I
This is
actually one
wrong.
reason why I put that against each other or head to head is because I've been out here in Vegas for a few years and I bought a house here, and one of the things that I wanted to do was decorate my house. And I have a lot of, I definitely have a lot of photos and stuff that I've taken over my time as a photographer, but I just don't want it just my own, I didn't want just photography or photos on my walls. I also I wanted to have some paintings, and I did during school. I mean, I took a couple of classes with painting and printing press, which was a really cool class as well. So that I always found that pretty interesting. And when I bought my place here, I decided I wanted to kind of get creative and paint some stuff, and I just found it amazing. I found it really therapeutic. I found it to be one of those things that's just very relaxing. It's not like photography where, depending on the type of photography, that you're doing, um, it can get stressful, but painting is a little bit more of like you slow down, you kind of think about what you want to do, and you can kind of change it at the same time. And I found it really interesting. I found it very therapeutic, and um, I think it's pretty awesome. So that's one of the reasons why I put them head to head. At the end of the day, I would still say photography. It's what I've been doing for a long time, and I feel like yeah, it's like it's just part of me now. But I definitely have a soft spot for painting as well.
I still I don't know if I kept you really did me wrong because now I'm traumatized. I don't know why. So it's like I don't. It's something that I never really thought I will have to ever have to choose because photography really is also painting for me. I mean, I see it as painting. That's the thing. That's why I chose painting because I am painting with light. So I'm a. I believe I'm more than a painter, more of a painter than a photographer. Even though I paint with photography, I do choose. I observe. I choose what I want in my image. I locate the pieces. I try to think about the texture. I think about the geometry, and it's just how I think in terms of painting, right? Because even if I'm just not winging it, but like I started to do something. I am observing the geometry, perspective, whether it's an image or even if it's just an abstract, painting. um, it has to have a structure. And I don't know if I can separate photography and painting, honestly. It's hard for me. You really,
It's a tough one. It's a
I'm not
tough
gonna
one.
sleep tonight. I'm not
It's
gonna
a
sleep.
tough one, but that definitely was a question for you because I mean that was
Yeah,
like
yeah. That's I
I
don't know.
definitely
I'm gonna
I
be answering
definitely
forever.
yeah, I definitely wanted to hear your answer on that one. So
Yeah.
awesome. So
No, I have friends. I have friends that specifically one really good friend of mine who's a theater producer with his wife, and he's a puppeteer as well. We did a show together back in the days, back in 2009, I believe. I was the set designer of his his what do you call show, and he always tells me, photography, you're really good, but he's always saying, I think you're a better painter than you're a photographer. I think you're a better painter. But to me, I look at the photography, and I don't see limits. So I see painting, I see mixed media. You're just mixing things. As you can see, I have some images that I have created, where it's projections. Remember that those projections with the painting. I think one of the images that we showed in the previous show was the butterfly image, where I did the butterfly wings painting with acrylic paints. Did the setup, with the background, and then did the projection. So, and then I took the picture. So, and it was one shot. Um, but again, I wanted the feeling of having some sort of that, organic paint or brush or that movement. Anyway, so I leave it at that. I'm not sleeping
awesome.
tonight.
Well, it's a great answer. It's a great answer, and definitely you're very passionate about both. So
Oh,
that's
very
an
cool.
interesting take on it. All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Yeah,
Ooh,
let's hear it.
All right, black and white photography versus color photography.
that's easy for
Yeah, it's easy for me too.
Really,
me.
I'm interested in what Johnny has to say.
Johnny.
Color,
Oh,
color,
oh,
hands down, not even a question. And
Color.
specifically color positives, not even a question.
Okay,
Not even a
explain.
question.
Explain.
color positive, you said?
Color positive, yeah, color positive, color transparencies. I think that to me is a purest form of analog photography because unlike black and white, where you can still manipulate it after the fact, and as I said, the final image is not until you print it. Color transparencies, you get it, that one shot, it is what it is. Your exposure's off, shot's messed up, that's it, game over. So, for me, that's why it's funny because as I told you guys from the last episode, the first film I ever shot was color transparency. It didn't dawn on me until going to college in LaGuardia, where I showed my portfolio to Scott at that time to see if I can bypass beginning photography. And the first thing he saw was all color transparencies. So and he was like, "Oh yeah, it looks like you know what you're doing. You know how to look at stuff. And yeah, he said, "Well, if you want, I could bump you right to intermediate if you wanted to." I was like, "Yeah, but what's an intermediate photography? Oh, it's more advanced black and white." No, it's cool. I'll head back to the beginning because I know Jack all about black and white. That's where I came to have an appreciation for black and white. But deep down, for me, still color and color transparency specifically. No ifs and or buts about it. Even to
Okay.
this day, I still shoot color transparency. So
It was
Sebastian?
1600, grainy, black and white.
Awesome. Awesome. I,
No,
man,
not even gonna think about it. I fell in love with that film and the process, and I cannot. I love black and white photography. Sebastian Salgado.
yeah.
yeah, Lewis, you better round it out with a C41 color, man. Yeah, that's the last one missing.
Cod-
He's like,
Kodachrome. Honestly, oh my goodness, there's something about black and white. Now, I guess I should have said analog black and white because digital black and white it's completely different. It's just so clean and it's like it doesn't have that character to it and that
1600, baby.
right. So if we're talking film, man, like black and white, what I really enjoy about black and white photography is that you just focus on the composition, you focus on the subject matter. You're not really thinking about color, and so it takes that away from
From
10
the
minutes. Yeah, it takes that away from the distraction. So I feel like black and white photography, there's just a very it feels vintage, but it also feels more serious. Um and that's kind of what I love about black and white
It's
photography.
so funny you mentioned that it feels more serious. For me, it's the complete opposite. For me, E6 is, for me, what I consider, serious and, every shot counts. I can't waste, frames. Every frame costs X amount. Any kind of negative, black, white, or color, I'm saying, whatever, it's my whole brick and, it is what it is, because traditionally E6 costs way more than, negative film. And even to this day, granted, black and
I
white
wanna
negatives is slowly climbing up, but for me, it's funny. Even to this day, I still feel, black and white negative. It's fun to shoot, it's fun to play with, but my serious work is still color transparency.
nice. I do want to say that if you think about black and white photography, it's important to think about color because when you're shooting the contrast, I do think about color. I do. I know it's not the main subject, but it makes when you're framing, when you want certain contrast, colors are going to transform in black and white, and they're going to become shades, so they can play a really good part of the subject. So it's not that I don't think about the color personally when I do black and white. It alleviates, but I'm it's a little bit more about, yes, it's a little bit more about the feeling, the environment, the subject itself. Um, but I also think that color photography, it is important because there are certain images that could not be if they were black and white. Just
Absolutely.
simple
Absolutely.
as that. They could not be an image.
Right.
It shouldn't be an image.
Well, I'm curious though, when you guys shoot, because this happens to me a lot, do you guys sometimes see in just black and white only where, oh, that definitely, it has to be a black and white shot, this, that, and that. Like,
Yeah,
because sometimes I have those moments where even though I'm shooting color transparency, shit, I wish I had, black and white on me.
yeah,
Because sometimes you see a shot like, yeah, I see that's definitely a black and white shot right there.
It
yeah.
depends on the distract. I mean, some things can be this like a distraction to the image when you're focusing on a specific subject. So let's say something like people. If you're photographing streets and you're focused on one specific subject, but there's somebody walking by with just a colorful thing, colorful clothing or garment or something like that, it can take away from what your point is, of that particular shot. So I feel like for those type of situations, that's where if let's say you're shooting with a digital camera, and if you're trying to focus on that specific subject, that's when you would probably want to switch it to black and white. So it's definitely one example, but it could
Or as
definitely.
the old adage goes, when digital photography first started, I'll fix it in post. Shooting color, I'll turn black and white in post.
Absolutely.
Definitely, there's a lot of things that I see and I'm like, oh my God, that's, I mean, I don't only think about that in terms of black and white. I think about that in terms of the format, like square format, vertical, horizontal. I mean, I started with the twins lens reflex, so I always go back to, it was crazy how we were. When did Instagram come about? Like 09,
2011, 2012.
11, and I
Yeah.
was shooting twins lens reflex at the time, so it was crazy how I switched from square format to square format. Like,
That's cool. That is
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mention that too, because I
at
remember when
the time that
Instagram
I was
first came
shooting
out. And I was gonna say when Instagram first came out, I was traditionally always shooting 35 mil, so horizontal, horizontal, vertical, vertical. But then you really grasp the concept of square, which is great because then you don't need to worry about vertical, horizontal. You just frame the shot right. And the biggest thing is proportions, because you have to have the right proportion in your shot. So yeah, funny enough, I gotta say, I'm actually glad for Instagram because that really opened, my eyes at least to square shooting, which made it a lot easier than, I guess forcing myself to shoot square. So
it really helped to spend less money on medium format rolls because now we were able to. It was weird. I mean, it just happened to that we were all of a sudden having square format on a digital phone, and it was an app that was specifically a square for like a twin sense reflex camera, right?
mhm. Yeah, you
So
had a Rolly, right? If not mistaken,
no, no,
or was it a Minolta?
Christoph had it was a Minolta, and my niece has it. I ended up giving it to her, I think, or something like that. But I think Christoph had a didn't he have a Rolly?
I have a Rolly.
You have a
Well, I was
Rolly.
gonna throw you under the bus, Lewis. Yo, you gotta start shooting with it, man. How long have you had it? When's the last time you put a roll through it?
So you're bringing it to New York, baby.
I have my Rolly. When did I buy that, Johnny? Like 2013,
Yeah, beats me.
2014.
It's a while ago. I know
Been
you
a
have
long
what, a
time.
Rolly 3.5 E2, I think.
The fact that you know that is pretty wild.
I think. Well, dude, I was the
Anyway,
one who bought it for you. You told me to buy it, and you gave me the money for it.
oh, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
dude, I mean, I got to throw you on the bus, man. You got to start shooting with it. I think, that thing hasn't seen a roll in like
I
a
lo I
decade.
love that thing, but honestly, me personally, when it comes to the Rolly, the only type of photography I'm gonna do is studio portraits. That's kind of how I feel.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
the
my
only the
God.
like I would do
Oh,
more of like a oh
no.
my goodness, Irvin
That's
Penn.
uncomfortable. That's
It'd be
even
like it
uncomfortable.
would be like a Irvin Penn type of shoot, you know.
Dude, the only other photographer I know, man, you got to be like Vivian Meyer. Bring that with you out on the streets, man.
See,
Salaman, Salaman.
I love Vivian Meyer's work, but I don't see me doing street photography with a Rolleiflex.
Oh my
Why
God,
not?
you have that.
I understand, but
I'm out. I'll see you guys. Dun,
for
dun,
me
dun.
personally,
Oh,
I
give me a
think
short ends.
I think studio portraits. Yeah, I think the Rolly. It's for me personally is just meant for studio portraits,
No, it's
and
meant
that's
for street photography. You're
I under
supposed to be walking
I
around, not
understand.
having the camera in the face, pointing at people. You're literally looking down. You're so, how do you say, inconspicuous?
Yeah,
uh,
I understand, but for me, like the way I shoot, I just
it's
it
like
needs
you're
it
shooting.
needs to be steady. It needs to be steady. I need to focus on that a particular shot, and
Uh,
for me, it just for street photography, it just doesn't work, and that's
no,
just
Yeah, I
I
mean,
love the
my
movement.
personal
I
opinion.
love the movement. I love the fact that you're literally shooting like a revolver from your hip. Boom! It's like you literally can put it on your hip, look down, and just shoot without
well,
even.
that being said, too, I mean, a lot of journalists back then actually used Rolleiflexes too. I mean, I think they transitioned from what is Graflex, speed Graflex, and stuff like that to Rolleiflexes, and they used to take a beating. That's why you see on eBay a lot of them are all beat to hell. So, yeah, it's a great street camera. I mean, I get it because Lewis's style is all with studio lights and this and that. Versus
No,
I
don't get
guess
listen. Don't get me wrong. I love
No,
street
no, he's saying
photography.
that he thinks that camera he will feel it more for like a studio, which to me it's
mind blowing.
mind
Yeah,
blowing. But
yeah.
it's,
Don't get me
I mean,
wrong. Like
it
for street
is.
photography, I definitely prefer just a 35 millimeter camera. Not even medium. Yeah, medium format. I don't know. It's just too
I
much.
even say I will go.
Partly because these cameras are now like just giant. I mean, it's like you can't be inconspicuous with a Rolleiflex
You can because you don't have it
or a
in your
Mamiya.
face.
People are gonna look at you and they're just gonna walk right to you and be like, "What type of camera is this?"
Well,
So
that's
it's
good. I mean,
not.
you can actually help, break down the barrier, without
Yeah.
Ghostbuster,
actually.
how do you call that? The what do you call that machine for the ghost?
You want to be
Oh,
like you want to be like Cartier-Bresson. You don't want to be noticeable at all. You want to be incognito. You want to be on the side. People don't know that you're
well,
actually
you can't
taking the
do that
photo.
either because you're not
Well,
a fan
then
of using rangefinders. So,
listen. I just gonna say that. I said, look, you're better off with a rangefinder, a twin lens reflex, and then a 35 millimeter. You're like going. I don't know. That's weird. I'm glad we're having this conversation because this is.
I don't know. I mean, Lewis tried the rangefinder last time. You weren't a big fan, I remember. So,
Yeah,
not
I'm not
there
a
goes
big
that.
not
fan
if
of
I
rangefinder
just
either.
don't have the patience for the rangefinder, and I
Me
just
neither.
yeah I
No,
was
no,
just
that's
Everybody
all I'm
he
using lately. I mean, I'm loving my rangefinders. I'm
loves his
just hooked on that
rangefinder.
lately. Well, let's see if it's this or if it's that.
all right, awesome. So let's see. I'm gonna choose one more. I had 10 of them, but that's too much. So we're gonna go with 35 millimeter or 50 millimeter focal range.
Oh, I thought you were talking about bullets.
35 or 50 millimeter focal range.
Who's starting?
35 millimeter.
Why?
Because 50 millimeter, it's too annoying to try to do. I mean, if you're going to do shoots, it's. I think the 35 is a little bit more versatile. Um, so it'll give you more when it depending like on crowd areas where you want to. I mean, I'm thinking about where you're moving around, doing street photography. I mean, if you're doing the studio, it doesn't really matter. You're better off with a 50. So I'll say 35.
Okay, Johnny.
The 50 annoys me, to be honest. You know what? I have a problem with a 50 millimeter lens now.
Well, dude, what's the
I
beef? And
thought
that's a
I
classic.
thought
That's the
I'm
classic.
gonna,
you
I'm
know,
gonna
honestly, Sebastian,
hate it.
I thought I was the only one because the 50
Oh,
absolutely annoys the crap
That
out of
just
me.
means you guys need more
oh,
practice with
Because
it.
you when you're using a 50, excuse me, when you're using a 50, you
ah,
feel like you either want the wider shot or you
yeah,
want the tighter shot, and you can't get either one.
you can.
Dude, if you got to
Obviously,
go wider, take two
And
steps
you are
back. If you got to
never
go
at the
closer,
right,
take two steps forward.
it
and you're
doesn't work.
never at the right distance to shoot with a 50. So it's like, I'm glad. I'm glad I took off this off my chest for
I,
like
I, I
15
thought it was just me, but the 50 millimeter, the nifty 50 is, I've never been a fan. Never
No,
been a fan of that.
it annoys me. Okay, yeah,
Damn.
35. You
So
know what?
I'm 100% with you. 35 millimeter for me
Damn.
all the way. Street
So
photography, give me a 35 and I'll just shoot all day with
let's
a
put it this
35
way.
millimeter.
So the question should have been the next time you ask the question should have been, you gotta choose. You need a 50 millimeter. No, option A, 50 millimeter. Option B, option B, option C, option D, any option minus A.
Damn. Holy crap, that bad, huh?
600 or a 50.
600. I'll take 600. I'll go shoot birds. I'll go shoot freaking
Exactly.
baseball, baseball.
Yeah.
So
Johnny,
what do you guys think my choice is?
50.
50
100%.
millimeter.
You're a
Johnny,
nifty 50 guy.
you're a rangefinder 50 millimeter guy.
Now, time for me to prove you guys wrong. No, I would actually choose a 35.
Okay.
Wow. I'm
Wow.
surprised. I'm super
Well,
surprised.
no, reason being is because when we used to shoot, I used to use 50 all the time.
No, you
But
used
like
16. You used the fish eye. I remember.
well, honestly, I still enjoy the 50, but as Lewis would say, storefronts and street corners is what I mostly shoot.
I
And for
don't
the past,
enjoy the fish at
honestly,
all.
yeah, honestly, the past, I think at least 5 years now, I've been using a 35. I use a 50 once in a while, but I've been shooting 35 more. I've just been trying to, I guess, broaden my horizon to, try eventually get to 28. But again, for me, I feel like 50 is still good. I can still use 50. Certain cameras, work best with 50, but I feel like 35 gives me a bit more room to breathe. So I can get a bit more because again, most times, like you said, I'm shooting storefronts and street corners. The store generally, would do a bit better if I have slightly wider angles. So for me, for past at least half a decade, I've been doing mostly 35. Still shoot with 50s, but mostly 35s.
What
I'm
do you
shocked.
shoot with 50?
I'm
What do
shocked,
you shoot
Johnny.
with
Well, I
50?
have a large collection of 50s, but that doesn't mean I'll shoot with 35s.
What do you shoot with 50 that can look good? Because if you think about it, if you're shooting with 50 and you want a portrait, you're salivating for an 85 millimeter lens at the
Believe
moment,
it or not, I'm
right?
actually not a fan of 85. I mean,
I
it's
love
just too restricting.
I'm a huge fan of 85. 80,
I
85 is
I tried Lewis's
85 is a
65 and
portrait.
it's like,
Well, yeah, you guys are portrait guys. For me, I'm
wow.
not. So for me,
Well,
storefront street corners, 85 is too restricting. At
For
that point in
me,
time, I rather
35, 80, 85.
yeah.
That's
that's a
it.
good pair. I
There's
mean,
not a
This right here,
millimeter.
no,
Yeah,
no.
that's just for like that's your. You know what? The only type of equipment that should have a 50 millimeter lens is a phone. Okay, let's keep the freaking
phone. Your phone's
phone.
28.
Phone's
No, I
20.
know, I know. What I'm just saying is I just
Oh, dude, what happened to you guys about being
that's
like Bresson? Now you're getting on 50. What's going on?
I think I've been holding this back for a long time, man.
Damn, that bad, huh?
This is
I
the
did not
reason.
know I needed therapy for
This
this.
is this is the reason why I put it on there because 50 has always bothered me. And
God,
the
Really?
people
Wow.
the people who
boys,
walk
I'm
around
gonna
with their
get back to you
the people
next week.
the people who walk around with their 50 millimeter lens, I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it because
All right,
I
for
feel
you,
stuck. I feel
dude,
absolutely stuck with that lens.
just for you, if you do end up coming over for July 4th, I'm gonna shoot my 50 mil instead, because I actually got my M6 loaded with the
I mean,
35. I'm gonna switch back to an M3 with the 50. Just for you, I'm gonna do 50.
No, it's just for me, it's just hard to compose with that lens. It's like yeah. I mean, obviously you can move forward or backwards, but at the end of the day, the 35 millimeter is going to do the job, and the 85. If you want to take a portrait, you shoot with an 85.
I don't know. For me, I mean, there's something to. I mean, I like the 50. It's just normal. I mean, what you see is kind of like very similar to what your eye gets. Granted, I think 43 is accurate, focal length, but I mean, again, I don't know. For me, 50 feels at home. Granted, I've been shooting 35 a lot, so I got used to a slightly wider, lens or wider angle of view. But I don't know. I mean, you know what? Just because you said that, I think I might transition back to the 50 and give that a shot again because I was thinking the same thing and I was going to shoot with the 35, but then I was like, you know what? After this conversation, I think I'm going to load up my 50 and use that instead. So
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
I
Because of
actually
you, I think I might actually have to do that.
any type of 50. So if I have to buy lenses, I'll probably get 16 to 45. I know it doesn't exist, but I'll get to 45 before I get to 50, and then I'll use 65.
But hey,
Yeah,
I mean, what happened, Lewis? You kept wanting to use my 50.95. Now I know, it's just for the 0.95, not so much the 50.
100% for the
This this
0.95.
is how I feel about the the 30 for the 50.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it has been a long time since I used a 50. Again, my priority lately is mostly 35, and I'd even try to go wider to 28. So I'm really thinking I might try to do some 50 now that we're talking about. It's been a long time since I shot with 50, like for a long time. So
Yeah, lend me a 35 and yeah, I'll do a whole day in the
Yeah.
life with a 35.
Wow. I mean, it can. Yeah. Okay. Next.
All right, you want to do one more? Or you want to move
yeah,
on?
let's keep this going. Let's do
Don't
what we
want to
got.
talk about the 50 anymore.
All right, so
The
you
50 is the best, man. That's the sun lens, all right?
I'm telling you right now, I just texted my therapist. Our next therapy session is gonna be about the 50 lens and why do I have to choose between photography and painting. So Louis really be honest with you.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a choice here. Do you want to go photographer versus photographer, or you want to go uh
Shoot it, just throw it
Well,
out
I
there.
don't
throw
I
it?
don't know photographers, so
Anyway,
I mean, I'm kind of
All
bone
right,
there. So,
this one's for Johnny and for us. DSLR versus mirrorless.
that's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one. They both have their benefits, but I think deep down I'd go with the DSLR. I mean, it's hard. Mirrorless, I like the fact that you have a lot of backwards compatibility, but if I already have the whole entire system built up, I have no real reason for mirrorless. Because the thing is, the idea behind mirrorless initially when it first came out is you get a lighter setup. You still have full system, but it's lighter. But you see what they have now. None of that's actually true. You have all these stupid fast lenses that weigh just as much as their SLR counterparts. At that point in time, there really makes no difference. I mean, if you want the screen, you can just do live view if your camera offers it. So, and at the same time, I don't need to worry about lag with an optical viewfinder at all. Granted, it's hard to see in the dark. So for that reason alone, I think I have to hand it to DSLR. I would go with the DSLR over mirrorless. I like the adaptability because I have an infinite amount of lenses I can adapt, but for a true systems camera, for something very dependable, reliable, I still stick to DSLR, I think.
I concur. I go,
DSLR.
yeah, DSLR. It's I don't know, it's just a feeling.
Explain.
I
Explain
don't really.
further.
To me, it's not really. There's no big difference on that, but I would definitely take DSLR.
DSLR.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's funny to me because around that time, 2014, 2015, shooting with Canon and shooting with the 7D and all these DSLRs, I was one of those guys who was just like, I cannot. Mirrorless is just it's a different world. It was just felt like alien to me. And just shooting with like DSLRs for a long time, it was just like I had a hard time switching.
Got it.
But I will say this: once I ended up switching, sorry guys, once I ended up switching to mirrorless, I don't see myself going back to DSLRs. Why I don't know, but I think that definitely having the camera be more compact and lighter and some of the advantages that the mirrorless cameras give you, I feel is just a much better system overall. The main thing that I had an issue with was the optical viewfinder versus
EVF.
the EVF, the electronic viewfinder. So that was definitely one of the things that took me a while to get used to. But after getting used to it and knowing that whatever I'm seeing through that EVF it's what I'm going to be shooting, that's a huge advantage for me. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, you're right, but at the same time, you can get that with DSLR if you have a live view. I mean, it's the same thing. So I don't, I get it, but then the problem also with, like the whole compactness, like I said, the lenses aren't any more compact. Like you yourself have a wide range of fast lenses that are equal in size to DSLR lenses, if not larger. So I don't find there to be a true benefit to that, shooting, mirrorless over the DSLRs. I mean, overall, I think the ergonomics on the DSLRs generally are better because they are thicker. Generally, again, there are other cameras that have better ergonomics, or great ergonomics. But DSLRs can do what mirrorless can do, but not vice versa in the sense of the optical viewfinder. There is no optical for a mirrorless. Digital. So you have a screen in the viewfinder and you have a screen on the back, and that's it. This, on the other hand, I have the option of either or. So for me, yes, it is heavier, but ultimately, I still think that's my choice. I mean, it makes more sense because I'm not getting any benefits moving to mirrorless. I think
personal choice. At this point, it's about adaptation. So I think that's the reason why I'm choosing DSLR, just because I didn't get adapted to, or better, even though I'm using Sony right now. But I still believe in, just I will choose it over it. I just feel better. I don't know. I like it.
Well, you could always trade up your Sony to another Canon.
Shoot, what's next, Luis? What do you got?
All right, you want to do one more?
One more.
Yeah,
Let's do one more.
Let's call it the day for you, the night for me, because you're still.
Yeah. Medium format or large format?
Oof.
Large format. Large format. Definitely. 1,000%.
Explain, Sebastian.
You just get you get the view of the friggin' just being able to see the images on the either view camera or just a large format film we're talking about, right? Is that what it is?
100% film.
Yeah. That as a painter or as an artist, I guess the process is important, and the process is important because it's meaningful, not only just for the end result, because my feeling and my emotions will play a part of the image even at the end, because I can create something, and as I'm feeling, as I'm going through the motion of doing things or preparing the image or creating the image, that can change, and I think you have more time to breathe, to think, to look at the thing and concentrate. You have to be 100% focused, especially with the view cameras. With the view cameras, well, you're like upside down, back and forth, like completely reverse. You're reverse. So you're immersed. You are immersed. That honestly, to be honest, at the end of the day, the image, it's like the least of it. To me, it's the least important thing, because they create, it's my feeling went in, but I'm taking the experience with me. And that's why we're going back to the beginning of the podcast, when we were talking about AI and what's doing, and your cousin, was it your cousin, and talking about what he was saying about the world, life is meaningless.
No, definitely not my cousin. That was a customer. The customer saying that life is meaningless.
Life is meaningless, can be meaningless, but no, it's gonna take the experience. So I will choose I will choose large format over any other format at any point in time ever, because I'm okay with just one image. I don't need to take 17,000 images. I'm okay with the process of creating one film. Anyway, that's mine.
Johnny?
Well, before I give you my answer, because I'll keep you in the guess, I know what you're going to choose already. After all these years that we've been talking, you're always talking about your shed house. So I'm guessing you're definitely a 4x5 for sure, large format. So
don't put words in my mouth.
I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to say it then. For me, based on my photography, I mean, unless I get as skilled as Scott when it comes to shooting, large format, medium format, hands down for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, reason being is because I personally haven't shot much large format, so I can't really see the beauty of the large image versus shooting medium format. I mean, color transparency in 6x6 is beautiful, and it's plenty large. It's like this big compared to 35 mil, which is like yay big. So you still get a much larger, beautiful image without slowing down to that extent where I'm only getting one shot. Plus, there's so much involved in large format just to get one picture. If I'm traveling on the go, I want to be able to move as I go instead of setting up and taking 30, 40 minutes for one shot. And Sebastian, as you know, with having kids and having a wife, they're not going to be too happy when you're just sticking around just for one shot when they want to walk around and do everything else. So at that point in time, I'd say medium format's the way to go. You get a much larger image. I wouldn't say positive, negative, much larger image for much less work. So I would say definitely medium format. And of course, now with the Hasselblad digital backs from that 907, I'd love to be able to get one of those with adapt it onto my Hasselblad. So I would say hands down right now, medium format.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, it has to be large format. I mean,
Call it.
just like Sebastian, the experience, the feeling that you get when you're going through the process of shooting one photo, I think it's just a very unique feeling, very unique experience as well. Everything else, like even with medium format, I feel like I mean, you shoot a lot faster. Everything slows down with large format. You take it step by step, and I feel like there's no other feeling when you're taking a photograph with any other camera than large format. And just seeing through that ground glass, when you have the loop and you're seeing through that ground glass, and you put
Fellow, I mean
you,
the cover, the
the
blanket.
cover, yeah, the
With the dark
blanket,
cloth.
the
Yeah.
dark cloth. There you go, the dark cloth.
Thank you, Johnny, for your expertise.
It is an absolute. It's a great experience, and not only that, but when you break a large format out, you. I remember taking a large format to Colombia, and this is like back in 2010. I had this camera, and I was just photographing a few different people from the town. I had at least 15 to 20 people surround me, and they were asking me, I'm just doing a photo project for myself, and they're asking me how much for a photo because they wanted to take a photo with the large format camera. And I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not, this is not a business. I was just literally doing a project, and people would surround me, 10, 15 people, just trying to find out, the whole process with the camera. So I think it's a completely unique feeling. It's an awesome feeling, and it's just an awesome camera to photograph, and it just slows you down completely.
And by that, and why I choose it, as you can see, and probably people are gonna be able to tell throughout this this podcast, is that I move a lot. My ADD is
We got
crazy.
to strap you down to your seat.
I stop. So for me,
Well,
it's
at least he strapped down the phone this time, so that's the start.
yes, but this is more special because there is no way of doing this without slowing down, and it puts you at a heart rate where you need to really be. You can't be rushing, moving around. The thing tips, you touch it, it shakes. So it really, it's it's. I think it's a
Well,
pure form of photography,
well,
and
like you said, Sebastian, it definitely is cool. Because remember we did the pizza box portraits for your birthday?
yeah, that was
That was cool. Yeah, surprisingly, once people caught wind, I had my wife at the time, like my secretary and the other buddy, my Mikey, telling people, "Oh, hold up, he's in there, developing, give him like another 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes before he can shoot again." That was pretty cool. We did his
dark
first
room in
Sebastian's wedding.
the gazebo.
Yeah, it's for your birthday, like what, 2, 3 years ago now, and we
uh,
did almost like what is it, a large format photo booth essentially. So we did direct positives on black and white paper, and we developed it on the spot. I still have a lot. I actually need to wash them because yeah,
so
the picture stained it.
we're
So,
gonna have to do another one this year because I'm gonna
oh, dude, that's a lot of work.
be
Yeah, you
45.
guys can do it this time. I'll let you run the show.
All right, fine, fine. You know what? We should do that. Oh, what if we do a couple of shots for the 4th of July? That would be nice. At least 5. Take 5 good shots for the 4th of
Yeah,
July.
I think you're breaking up there. I couldn't really hear you. Was that? Are we still live?
Doing that, putting a Profoto flash, syncing it with the 8x10. What do you think?
Jesus, now you're talking 8x10. Yeah, I definitely lost you guys there.
Eight by
Wait,
ten. You just provide the film, Johnny. We'll
you have an
provide the
iMac,
rest.
right?
Dude, a box like $200.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that was fun though. I mean, yeah, when you guys see the results from that, there was actually lots of fun. Reason why it's called the pizza box portraits because after taking pictures, there's no place to dry it, so we're
Wow,
using
these are
the pizza
beautiful
boxes.
pictures. These pictures came out really nice.
Awesome.
But all right, so that's the end of this or that. So we got your answer. You chose this, I chose that. So
All right, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
We're pretty good. This was fantastic. It was a great, guys getting together again for this show, for at least just this get together. That's what we're doing, and talk about photography. Go over our experiences, our feelings, just so we can, help people loosen up, and just go out there, shoot, just shoot and learn. Just pick up the phone, pick up the camera. Have the the courage to use the tools to mess around with it, with your equipment, whatever you have in hand. So yeah, it was great. It was fantastic today. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna need a therapy after today, but yeah.
You're still struggling with the painting and photography question?
Can't believe it. It's just crazy.
Just go and paint something right now. That's
Yeah,
that's
I'm gonna have to figure
the
out. I
the,
want
the
to
best thing.
I don't know if I want to turn this that way.
Eventually, you'll have to explain to us that big painting in the back with the UFO. I feel
Oh
like it's a
yeah, there's
UFO,
a
but
commission painting in the
but
back. Yeah,
yeah, but let's leave that for a different episode.
right,
So
right. I will. I'll leave you with this. Like, do have a photo and a naked painting of.
those are actually cool.
Yeah, so I got one of them is the photography. This is actually right there. It's a photo of a wall, and yeah, this is pastel drawing. The rest are like this is actually metal. What do you call it? Metal patina? Anyway, whatever.
Awesome,
So
bro.
yeah, fantastic, Johnny, Luis, great having you. What do you guys say?
all right, so guys, as usual, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for listening to the Just Shoot and Learn channel. So as we would say, let's go out and shoot, learn, and we'll see you on the next episode.
I was welcoming to the channel.
Goodbye, guys. Bye bye.